Just going to give a quick check here and make sure everything's working right before I do this. Making sure. I'm going to just go to the actual YouTube page, if I can find it. They've changed things since the last time I've been live. So let me see here. Let's see. Oh, I'll just do this. Alright, just giving it a quick check. Just gonna give a quick check here. Okay, everything looks good. Definitely gonna, don't forget to like and subscribe if you're new. But, so I've got some more of this book, excerpts from this book. It's called Views from the Real World. It's early talks with G.I. George Gurdjieff. I did a premiere yesterday, but it actually took more effort than I think a live stream will, and I will be able to maybe perhaps make it a little more, I guess, interactive, if you will. This is a very interesting chapter of the book. I don't know if I'll play the whole thing, but it caught me today just having a listen while I was driving. And if you're not familiar with Gurdjieff, definitely recommend checking him out. Even if you disagree with him, his views are quite interesting. Really a great book to start out with. It's not by Gurdjieff himself, but it is called In Search of the Miraculous, and it is, discussions with Gurdjieff. And it was written by Ouspensky. I believe it's P.D. Ouspensky. Very, very good book, written in the very early 1900s, I believe, before 1920 or around that. Or that's when it was being written. I'm not sure when it was published, but this book as well is in the 1915s to the early 1920s. It's quite interesting. It's worth a read, worth a listen. This channel, Michael Garland here, has several of his books, and it's definitely worth your time to look into. So I'm just going to check everything here before I get right into it. One more time. Let me find my video here. All right. So everything looks good here. Looks like everything is A-okay on my end. So let's just give it another quick check here and make sure everything's working right before. All right, it looks good. So I'm just going to sit here and listen with you and interject here and there. I think it's very much self-explanatory, and I have listened to it, but I find it fascinating, so I am happy to listen to it again with you guys. So here you go.
London, 1922. Man is a plural being. When we speak of ourselves ordinarily, we speak of I. We say, I did this, I think this, I want to do this. But this is a mistake. There is no such I, or rather there are hundreds, thousands of little I's in every one of us. We are divided in ourselves, but we cannot recognise the plurality of our being except by observation and study. At one moment it is one I that acts. At the next moment it is another I. It is because the I's in ourselves are contradictory that we do not function harmoniously. We live ordinarily with only a very minute part of our functions and our strength, because we do not recognise that we are machines, and we do not know the nature and working of our mechanism. We are machines. We are governed entirely by external circumstances. All our actions follow the line of least resistance to the pressure of outside circumstances. Try for yourselves. Can you govern your emotions? No. You may try to suppress them, or cast out one emotion by another emotion, but you cannot control it.
All right, I just wanted to take a quick second because I was actually thinking about this earlier in connection with free will. And I was thinking about getting angry at something in particular. And the question I would ask somebody, uh, can you control when you get angry? Can you stop it? If somebody upsets you, can you just turn it off and say, I'm not going to be upset? In some cases, it may be so, highly unlikely, because if you've become upset, at that point you've already been upheaved, and it's rather difficult to to even acknowledge that you're upset at that point, or see yourself as being upset, and you just the emotion takes hold of you, and now you are just upset. And it's something that I was thinking about yesterday, so I found that was one of the original reasons why I wanted to do this little live stream. But I'll let it continue. I might jump in here and there, but overall, I'm really just going to sit here and listen as well again, because there's some good stuff. I'll probably point it out here and there, but I'm not going to ramble. So let me see. Mute my...
It controls you. Or you may decide to do something. Your intellectual I may make such a decision, but when the time comes to do it, you may find yourself doing just the opposite. If circumstances are favourable to your decision, you may do it, but if they are unfavourable, you will do whatever they direct. You do not control your actions. You are a machine, and external circumstances govern your actions irrespective of your desires. I do not say nobody can control his actions. I say you can't, because you are divided. There are two parts to you, a strong and a weak part. If your strength grows, your weakness will also grow, and will become negative strength unless you learn to stop it. If we learn to control our actions, that will be different. When a certain level of being is reached, we can really control every part of ourself. But as we are now, we cannot even do what we decide to do. Here a theosophist posed a question, claiming that we could change conditions. Answer: conditions never change. They are always the same. There is no change, only modification of circumstances. Question: isn't it a change if a man becomes better? Answer: one man means nothing to humanity. One man becomes better, another becomes worse. It is always the same. Question: but is it not an improvement for a liar to become truthful? Answer: no, it is the same thing. First he tells lies mechanically because he cannot tell the truth. Then he will tell the truth mechanically because it is now easier for him. Truths and lies are only valuable in relation to ourselves if we can control them. Such as we are, we cannot be moral because we are mechanical. Morality is relative, subjective, contradictory, and mechanical. It is the same with us, physical man, emotional man, intellectual man. Each has a different set of morals befitting his nature. The machine in every man is divided into three basic parts, three centres. Look at yourself at any moment and ask, what sort of I is it that is working at the moment? Does it belong to my intellectual centre, to my emotional centre, or to my moving centre? You will probably find that it is quite different from what you imagine, but it will be one of these. Question: is there no absolute code of morality that ought to be binding on all men alike? Answer: yes. When we can use all the forces that control our centres, then we can be moral. But until then, as long as we use only a part of our functions, we cannot be moral. We act mechanically in all that we do, and machines cannot be moral. Question: it seems a hopeless position. Answer: quite right. It is hopeless. Question. Then how can we change ourselves and use all our forces? Answer. That is another matter. The chief cause of our weakness is our inability to apply our will to all three of our centres simultaneously. Question. Can we apply our will to any of them? Answer. Certainly, sometimes we do. Sometimes we may even be able to control one of them for a moment with very extraordinary results. He relates the story of a prisoner throwing a ball of paper with a message to his wife through a high and difficult window. This is his only means to become free. If he fails the first time, he will never have another chance. He succeeds for the moment in having absolute control over his physical centre, so that he is able to accomplish whatever otherwise he never could have done. Question. Do you know anybody who has reached this higher plane of being? Answer. It means nothing if I say yes or no. If I say yes, you cannot verify it, and if I say no, you are none the wiser. You have no business to believe me. I ask you to believe nothing that you cannot verify for yourself. Question. If we are wholly mechanical, how are we to get control over ourselves? Can a machine control itself? Answer. Quite right, of course not. We cannot change ourselves. We can only modify ourselves a little. But we can be changed with help from the outside. The theory of esotericism is that mankind consists of two circles, a large outer circle embracing all human beings, and a small circle of instructed and understanding people at the centre. Real instruction, which alone can change us, can only come from this centre, and the aim of this teaching is to help us to prepare ourselves to receive such instruction. By ourselves we cannot change ourselves. That can come only from outside. Every religion points to the existence of a common centre of knowledge. In every sacred book, knowledge is there, but people do not wish to know it. Question. But haven't we a great store of knowledge already? Answer. Yes, too many kinds of knowledge. Our present knowledge is based on sense perceptions, like children's. If we wish to acquire the right kind of knowledge, we must change ourselves. With the development of our being, we can find a higher state of consciousness. Change of knowledge comes from change of being. Knowledge in itself is nothing. We must first have self-knowledge, and with the help of self-knowledge, we shall learn how to change ourselves, if we wish to change ourselves. Question. And this change must still come from without? Answer. Yes. When we are ready for new knowledge, it will come to us. Question. Can one alter one's emotions by acts of judgment? Answer. One centre of our machine cannot change another centre. For example, in London I am irritable. The weather and the climate dispirit me and make me bad-tempered, whereas in India I am good-tempered. Therefore my judgment tells me to go to India, and I shall drive out the emotion of irritability. But then in London I find I can work. In the tropics not as well. And so there I should be irritable for another reason. You see, emotions exist independently of the judgment, and you cannot alter one by means of the other. Question. What is a higher state of being? Answer. There are several states of consciousness. 1. Sleep, in which our machine still functions but at very low pressure. 2. Waking state, as we are at this moment. These two are all that the average man knows. 3. What is called self-consciousness. It is the moment when a man is aware both of himself and of his machine. We have it in flashes, but only in flashes. There are moments when you become aware not only of what you are doing, but also of yourself doing it. You see both I and the here of I am here. Both the anger and the I that is angry. Call this self-remembering if you like. Now, when you are fully and always aware of the I and what it is doing and which I it is, you become conscious of yourself. Self-consciousness is the third state. Question: is it not easier when one is passive? Answer: yes, but useless. You must observe the machine when it is working. There are states beyond the third state of consciousness, but there is no need to speak of them now. Only a man in the highest state of being is a complete man. All the others are merely fractions of man. The outside help which is necessary will come from teachers or from the teaching I am following. The starting points of this self-observation are: 1. That we are not one. 2. That we have no control over ourselves. We do not control our own mechanism. 3. We do not remember ourselves. If I say I am reading a book and do not know that I am reading, that is one thing. But when I am conscious that I am reading, that is self-remembering. Question: doesn't cynicism result? Answer: quite true. If you go no further than to see that you and all men are machines, you will simply become cynical. But if you carry your work on, you will cease to be cynical. Question: why? Answer: because you will have to make a choice, to decide, to seek either to become completely mechanical or completely conscious. This is the parting of the ways of which all mystical teachings speak. Question: are there no other ways of doing what I want to do? Answer: in England, no. In the East it is different. There are different methods for different men. But you must find a teacher. You alone can decide what it is that you wish to do. Search into your heart for what you most desire, and if you are capable of doing it, you will know what to do. Think well about it, and then go forward. Paris, August 1922. One-sided development. In each of those present here, one of his inner machines is more developed than the others. There is no connection between them. Only he can be called a man without quotation marks in whom all three machines are developed.
All right, so I really find this interesting and very true. One of the main principles from these teachings are self-verification. It's said many times throughout the works: don't believe anything that I say. Figure it out for yourself. Find it for yourself. Use your own discernment. And I find this, it's pretty rare in modern teachings. It's, and it gets into this later in this book and in the other books, and several other books, honestly, that religion comes into play as either a law to live your life by, or it becomes the policeman of your life. And one of the main points of this excerpt here is that we are multiple divided beings within ourselves. Not that you're anything else but yourself, but that we don't know ourselves. That I always like to give this example from a Seinfeld episode, and it's a bit that he did as stand-up comedy, and he said, my morning person hates my night person. Every night I stay up and I have one more drink. I'll stay up a little later. I'm going to deal with it tomorrow. And then the morning rolls around and you feel like shit and you're upset and you're like, well, damn, God, I'm mad at myself for doing that. And that's the idea of the lack of unity within oneself. And that's a very broad example and a very anecdotal example. But it plays out throughout our lives all the time. How often do you say, I'm going to do this today, and something else comes up that either catches your interest or makes you lose interest, that you put it off till another day, or altogether you drop it, whether it be with habits or this or that. The idea is that you have multiple eyes within yourself, smaller eyes, the one eye being you as a person, but all the divisive eyes within you that counterbalance one another and really are counterproductive. So one of the aims and goals of these teachings is to unify the self, know thyself, and come to a really a magnetic center of where you're directed in all of your eyes, or you eradicate some of the eyes that are unnecessary, or you at least make them become aware of the other eyes that they battle with on a daily basis. So I find it, very important, and I realize that a lot of people are not really into this information. And one of the points I'd like to make is that this is also, for me, it helps me to ingest and digest the information a little more deeply, to try to talk about it as I'm hearing it again. I've already listened to this once today before, and it's also, a lot of this information is in another book that I've read going on a couple times now. So it really just helps me understand this information on a deeper level, to take it in for more than just face value. And so, but to those of you out there that do enjoy listening, hey, thanks for being here. I plan on doing a lot more of this kind of stuff, because this is really one of my deeper interests beyond music, beyond my normal podcast. We plan on getting back to that as well, but this is something that I find that holds value to me in my life, and something that, again, it just interests me. So this is why I do it. I'm just going to continue playing here. It looks like my stream's on red, but whatever. I'm just going to keep it going, and maybe it'll fix itself after it's all uploaded, because, again, this is easier than trying to make a video. And let me see. And I'll just give a quick address to the comments. Am I still skating? Yeah, I will be skating. I've been trying to heal from this concussion I had, and in second effect, God bless you all. Hey, God bless you too. And I will be back to skating. That's something I just need to let my let my brain heal a little bit. The Nag Hammadi, an older version of this afternoon, I enjoyed listening to the conversation. Hey, Nag Hammadi is a wonderful read. It definitely gives you a different perspective of Christianity, and I find great value in the Nag Hammadi. Although many Christians disagree with it, I find it a very, very worthwhile exploration. And let me see here. Just want to say that Nag Hammadi is a library and not one single philosophy. Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. Or belief. It's very diverse, and it is. And hey, they're finding freedom. Nice to see you. And a little bit bummed that we got pushed off till Saturday with the SpaceX launch. I was waiting for it, and I guess weather and atmospheric conditions held that off. And yeah, DB, the Nag Hammadi can be a bit confusing, especially in relation to the traditional New Testament Bible. It does kind of contradict in some ways, but I think if you can look at the deeper meaning of both, they don't actually contradict one another. They actually kind of balance, because for me, the New Testament, along with the teachings that are here in this podcast that I'm doing, from Gurdjieff's writings, are all kind of in tune with each other. They resonate in sympathy, and they all back each other up. So that's kind of my 2 cents, if you will. And hey there, Tricky Ricky, nice to see you, brother. I did want to give a shout out to Treach, who was in the chat earlier. He said he gave me a shout out. I just want to say I appreciate it. So I said I would give a shout out in retort. So check out Treach Reinfo, or I believe Renfo. I'm sorry, Treach Renfo. Renfro. It's a weird spelling there, but if you can no longer go to the channel from the side chat, sadly. So if you go to the live stream side chat here, which I always leave up afterwards, look early on for Treach Renfro and give him a check out. He rides his motorcycle, kind of gives some interesting perspectives and does his own live streams. So anyway, I'm gonna get back. I just wanted to kind of give my 2 cents, so to speak, on the topics at hand. I find it very interesting. I'm gonna let it continue and quit rambling. So here you go, guys.
A one-sided development is only harmful. If a man possesses knowledge and even knows all he must do, this knowledge is useless and can even do harm. All of you are deformed. If only personality is developed, it is deformity. Such a man can in no way be called a complete man. He is a quarter, a third of a man. The same applies to a man with a developed essence or a man with developed muscles. Nor can he be called a complete man in whom a more or less developed personality is combined with a developed body, while his essence remains totally undeveloped. In short, a man in whom only 2 of the 3 machines are developed cannot be called a man. A man of such one-sided development has more desires in a given sphere, desires he cannot satisfy, and at the same time cannot renounce. Life becomes miserable for him. For this state of fruitless, half-satisfied desires, I can find no more suitable word than onanism. From the standpoint of the ideal of full harmonious development, such a one-sided man is worthless. The reception of external impressions depends on the rhythm of the external stimulators of impressions and on the rhythm of the centres. Right reception of impressions is possible only if these rhythms correspond to one another. If I or anyone were to say 2 words, one of them would be said with one understanding, another with another. Each of my words has a definite rhythm. If I say 12 words, in each of my listeners, some words, say 3, would be taken in by the body, 7 by personality, and 2 by essence. Since the machines are not connected with each other, each part of the listener has recorded only part of what was said. In recollecting, the general impression is lost and cannot be reproduced. The same happens when a man wants to express something to another. Owing to the absence of connection between the machines, he is able to express only a fraction of himself. Every man wants something, but first he must find out and verify all that is wrong or lacking in himself, and he must bear in mind that a man can never be a man if he has no right rhythms in himself. Take the reception of sound. A sound reaches the receiving apparatuses of all the 3 machines simultaneously, but owing to the fact that the rhythms of the machines are different, only one of them has time to receive the impression, for the receiving faculty of the others lags behind. If a man hears the sound with his thinking faculty and is too slow to pass it on to the body for which it is destined, then the next sound he hears, also destined for the body, drives away the first completely, and the required result is not obtained. If a man decides to do something, for instance to hit something or someone, and at the moment of decision the body does not fulfil this decision, since it was not quick enough to receive it in time, the force of the blow will be much weaker, or there will be no blow at all. Just as in the case of reception, a man's manifestations too can never be complete. Sorrow, joy, hunger, cold, envy, and other feelings and sensations are experienced only by a part of an ordinary man's being, instead of by the whole of him.
All right, now this, I'm going to skip a chapter here and go to a short little excerpt about self-remembering, which I've discussed self-remembering quite a bit over the year or so in these podcasts, and it's the concept of shutting off the internal dialogue, if you will, observing the self. So, like, if you, let's say right now, I'm having a podcast, but to self-observe would be to me consciously be aware that I am also having a podcast. So I'm in the act of having a podcast and I'm aware of it. But then to take it a step further, to be aware of myself, being aware of myself, having this podcast, which is kind of a deep little wormhole there. And I'm not the greatest at explaining it. So I'm going to, this woman here is reading the book, but Brother Gurdjieff is the one really explaining it. And I'm just going to let his words do the talking for me, because I find it's probably the most valuable tool that we can attain, is the idea of self-remembering or shutting off the internal dialogue. So I'm going to mute myself and play it again here for you. Here you go.
New York, March the 13th, 1924. Self-observation is very difficult. The more you try, the more clearly you will see this. At present, you should practice it not for results, but to understand that you cannot observe yourselves. In the past, you imagined that you saw and knew yourselves. I am speaking of objective self-observation. Objectively, you cannot see yourselves for a single minute, because it is a different function, the function of the master. If it seems to you that you can observe yourselves for 5 minutes, this is wrong. If it is for 20 minutes or for 1 minute, it is equally wrong. If you simply realise that you cannot, it will be right. To come to it is your aim. To achieve this aim, you must try and try. When you try, the result will not be, in the true sense, self-observation, but trying will strengthen your attention. You will learn to concentrate better. All this will be useful later. Only then can one begin to remember oneself. If you work conscientiously, you will remember yourselves not more but less, because self-remembering requires many things. It is not so easy. It costs a great deal. The exercise of self-observation is sufficient for several years. Do not attempt anything else. If you work conscientiously, you will see what you need. At present, you have but one attention, even in the body or the feeling. New York, December the 9th, 1930. Question: how can we gain attention? Answer: there is no attention in people. You must aim to acquire this. Self-observation is only possible after acquiring attention. Start on small things. Question: what small things can we start on? What should we do? Answer: your nervous and restless movements make everyone know, consciously or unconsciously, that you have your aim, your God. Let nothing interfere. Only aim at this. Then, if you succeed in doing this, I will be able to give you a greater task. Now you have an appetite to do things too big for you. This is an abnormal appetite. You can never do these things, and this appetite keeps you from doing the small things you might do. Destroy this appetite. Forget big things. Make the breaking of a small habit your aim. Question: I think my worst fault is talking too much. Would trying not to talk too much be a good task? Answer: for you this is a very good aim. You spoil everything with your talking. This talk even hinders your business. When you talk much, your words have no weight. Try to overcome this. Many blessings will flow to you if you succeed. Truly, this is a very good task. But it is a big thing, not small. I promise you, if you achieve this, even if I am not here, I will know about your achievement and will send help so that you will know what to do next. Question: would a good task be to endure the manifestations of others? Answer: to endure the manifestations of others is a big thing, the last thing for a man. Only a perfect man can do this. Start by making your aim or your God the ability to hear one manifestation of one person that you cannot now endure without nervousness. If you wish, you can. Without wishing, you never can. Wish is the most powerful thing in the world. With conscious wish, everything comes. Question. I frequently remember my aim, but I have not the energy to do what I feel I should do. Answer. Man has no energy to fulfill voluntary aims because all his strength, acquired at night during his passive state, is used up in negative manifestations. These are his automatic manifestations, the opposite of his positive-willed manifestations. For those of you who are already able to remember your aim automatically but have no strength to do it, sit for a period of at least 1 hour alone. Make all your muscles relaxed. Allow your associations to proceed, but do not be absorbed by them. Say to them, if you will let me do as I wish now, I shall later grant you your wishes. Look on your associations as though they belong to someone else, to keep yourself from identifying with them. At the end of an hour, take a piece of paper and write your aim on it. Make this paper your God. Everything else is nothing. Take it out of your pocket and read it constantly, every day. In this way it becomes part of you. At first theoretically, later actually. To gain energy, practice this exercise of sitting still and making your muscles dead. Only when everything in you is quiet after an hour, make your decision about your aim. Don't let associations absorb you. To undertake a voluntary aim and to achieve it gives magnetism and the ability to do. Question. What is magnetism? Answer. Man has two substances in him, the substance of active elements of the physical body and the substance made up of the active elements of astral matter. These two form a third substance by mixing. This mixed substance